Carja, Bawala Mila Buikas Agao Live was Taktan showing you. Comrades, I'd like to thank you for coming here today. We have gathered to commemorate the life and death of volunteer George McDermott, a man cut down in his prime for daring to believe he could liberate his country from the shackles of 800 years of imperial slavery. The Ireland of today is not much different to the Ireland of George McDermott's time. Our slave masters back then, like today, were a right-wing Fine Gael government and a foreign Tory parliament hell-bent on crushing Irish republicanism and everything it stood for. Poverty and hunger were the lot of the masses, serfdom the acceptable norm. It was against these conditions that men like George McDermott stood up and were counted. They sacrificed themselves for the betterment of their people. They fought so that Ireland could be free. Free from destitution, free from social and religious intolerance, free so that Ireland could determine her own future and take her place amongst the rightful nations of the earth. Accordia, that fight still goes on. In this state today, 400,000 people live in fuel poverty. 98,981 patients languished on hospital trolleys last year. 680,000 patients suffered on hospital waiting lists last year. 790,000 people live in poverty. 250,000 of them are children. 10,000 people are homeless. 3,755 of them are children. So much for cherishing all of the children of the nation equally. No less an iconic figure in Irish republicanism than James Connolly once said, "A nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest citizens." By any rule of measure, the suffering inflicted upon the weakest members of our society through almost 100 years of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael governments is a damning indictment and betrayal of the principles envisioned in the proclamation. Those principles are no longer aspirational, but have been rejected and abandoned long ago. We in Sinn Féin stay true to those principles and uphold the vision of Clark, of Connolly, of Pearse, of George McDermott. Accordia, this year marks the 96th anniversary of the killing of volunteer George McDermott. Opposed to the partition of Ireland, he sided with anti-treaty forces determined to end British oppression in Ireland. He served as a private in the 4th Battalion, E Company, 2nd Meath Brigade of the IRA. He was actively involved during the War of Independence and Civil War. He was killed on the 5th of July 1922 at the Battle of Curratown in an engagement with the Free State Army. He was buried with full military honours in Ardbraccan cemetery afterwards. We are here today to honour his sacrifice. Accordia, I'd now like to call on Conor Renix to read the proclamation.
Poblach na hÉireann, Provisional Government of the Irish Republic, to the people of Ireland, Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations, from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland, through us summons our children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Having organised and trained her manhood through our secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and through our open military organisations, the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army, having patiently perfected her discipline, having resolutely waited for the right moment to reveal itself, she now seizes that moment. And supported by her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe. But relying first on her own strength, she strikes in full confidence of victory. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland, to the unfettered control of Irish destinies, to be sovereign and indefeasible. The long usurpation of that right by a foreign people and government has not extinguished the right, nor can it ever be extinguished except for the destruction of the Irish people. In every generation, the Irish people have asserted their right to national freedom and sovereignty. 6 times during the past 300 years, they've asserted it in arms, standing on that fundamental right, and again, asserting in arms in the face of the world. We hereby proclaim the Irish Republic as a sovereign, independent state, and we pledge our lives and the lives of our comrades in arms to the cause of its freedom, of its welfare, and of its exaltation among the nations. The Irish Republic is entitled to, and hereby claims, the allegiance of every Irish man and Irish woman. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all its citizens, and declares its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation and of all its parts, cherishing all of the children of the nation equally and oblivious of the differences carefully fostered by an alien government, which had divided a minority from the majority in the past. Until our arms have brought the opportune moment for the establishment of a permanent national government, representative of the whole people of Ireland, and elected by the suffrages of all her men and women, the provisional government hereby constituted will administer the civil and military affairs of the Republic in trust for the people. We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessing we evoke upon our arms. And we pray that no one who serves this cause will dishonour it by cowardice, inhumanity, or rapine. In this supreme hour, the Irish nation must, by its valour and discipline, and by the readiness of its children to sacrifice themselves for the common good, prove itself worthy of the august destiny to which it is called. Signed on behalf of the provisional government, Thomas J. Clark, Padraig Pearse, Thomas McDonagh, Joseph Plunkett, Sean McDermott, James Cannelly, and Eamon Cant.
Thank you, Conor. I'd now like to call on Lorna Renix to read the Mead Roll of Honour.
Easter Rising, killed in action 1916. Lieutenant Thomas Allen Longwood. Volunteer Philip Clark slain. Volunteer James Fox Drumree. And Volunteer James McCormick Bellewstown. Black and Tan War, killed in action 1918 to 1922. Commandant Seamus Coogan Oldcastle and Commandant Patrick MacDonald, also from Oldcastle. Civil War, killed in action 1922. Volunteer George McDermott, Commons, Navan. Executed by firing squad 1923. Volunteer Thomas Murray, Navan. Volunteer Lawrence Sheeky, Bracetown. Volunteer Terence Brady, Wilkinstown. And Volunteer Michael Greeley, Oldcastle.
Thank you, Lorna. I'd now like to call on the colour party to lower the flags while Duncan plays the lament.
Anthony.
Thank you, Duncan, and members of the Colour Party. Accordia, I would now like to call on our main speaker, a man who needs no introduction. However, he has dedicated his entire adult life to the cause of Irish republicanism and freedom. He has been involved in all its phases of war, peace, and the pursuit of social justice. Joe's dedication and determination to uphold the principles of the proclamation are an inspiration to us all. Accordia, it is my great privilege and honour to introduce a man who is held in very high esteem by the people of this area, your local councillor, Joe Riley.
You're very welcome to this, in my view, one of the most beautiful places that commemorations are held in, and I've spoken at commemorations all over the country, but this one here is the one that remains closest to my heart. 102 years ago, men and women were preparing for an Easter rising that was to shake the greatest empire the world had seen. And there had been a pre-runner to that. In the previous years, we had the renaissance of the GAA, cultural renaissance. We had the great lockout of 2013. But a group of people, ordinary people, poets, activists, people who were deeply embedded in the cultural world of Ireland, and led by one of the great heroes, in my thinking anyway, one of the great heroes of Irish history, Thomas Clarke, that great Fenian, came together to hold a rising and to explain to people what that rising was about. They agreed a proclamation. And that proclamation of 102 years ago is as relevant in Ireland today as it was 102 years ago. And the reason it is relevant is that it speaks to what human beings need in their lives. It speaks about equality. It speaks about fairness. It speaks about at peace with itself. And they are universal thoughts and thinkings of people, irrespective of the generation that they're born in. And 2 years later, in the election, the only 32 county election that has been held in Ireland, Republicans won that election by a massive majority. They provided a democratic base for what had happened 2 years before, the Easter Rising. And there was a number of important points in that election. One, it was the democratic mandate of the people to live in a republic, not as citizens and not as some type of servants to a queen or a monarchy. Secondly, it provided the women of Ireland with a vote for the first time. It may seem strange now, but at that time, women did not have a vote. It also produced, and I would hope that this year people will take the opportunity to read it, the Declaration of Independence and the type of Ireland building on the proclamation that people wanted to see. So we enter into a period this year celebrating a democratic election, the ability of women to vote for the first time, and the outbreak of the War of Independence. So it is an important year politically. And I hope it will be celebrated and understood that what the War of Independence gave us was our ability to fight back, create new means of war, to bring an enemy to the table. That was an important point of principle for Republicans who had come from the prison camps and from 1916. So 100 years on from that, we face new challenges as Republicans. Ireland is not just orange and green anymore. It is multicultural. It is a rainbow country now. And that is important, that we recognise that we have an inclusive Ireland, that we have an Ireland of welcomes, and that the people who live here are entitled to the same rights as everybody else. Recently, within our own party, within Sinn Féin, Mary Lou and Michelle O'Neill have become leaders. A new generation has moved on. They have to build on what Gerry Adams, Martin McGuinness and other people built. As we enter into this year, we face a whole range of new challenges as a people. We face the challenge of Brexit. We face the challenge of having the 6 counties a special area within the EU. We have to campaign for that. Why? Because the Brexit as envisaged by Theresa May and the Tory government will be absolutely detrimental to the people of this country now and for generations to come. And those negative effects on our society that's contained within Brexit as envisaged by the Tories is not good for Ireland, its jobs, its people or anything else. So we have to create and politically demand a special status for the North within the EU. We also have to put it up to, as a part of those challenges, the ending of partition. We want to see a referendum held in this country within the next 5 years on the ending of partition. Not only do we want to see it, but we want to win it. In the next 5 years, we can end partition in this country. We can create a united Ireland. We then can go on to create the type of Ireland that we need. We face the challenge of the referendum of the 8th Amendment, and Sinn Féin as a party will be campaigning for a yes vote in that. And I know it's a sensitive subject and people have different views on it, but as a party we will be campaigning. So there's now an opportunity, a number of great opportunities. 1, to end partition. 2, to campaign for the referendum that would do so. And 3, the opportunity to win it. So I say to people, go away from here today, consider the role that you can play in shaping a new Ireland, because we are at a crossroads of change. And I would appeal to people, irrespective of whether you're a member of the party that I belong to or a member of another party, there is a need for a broad front across this island for unity, independence and to defeat the Brexit of the Tory party. Gura Mahagaf.
Gura Mahagaf to Joseph. Akarja, I'd now like to call on Davy Harrison to play the Foggy Jew.
Right proudly high over Dublin town, they hung out the flag of war. 'Twas better to die 'neath an Irish sky Suvla or Sudalbar. And from the plains of royal Meath, strong men came hurrying through, while Britannia's hounds with their long-range guns sailed in through the foggy dew. 'Twas Britannia bade our wild geese go, that small nations might be free. But their lonely graves are by Suvla's waves, on the shore of the great North Sea. But had they died by Pierce's side, or fought with Cabral, their names we would keep where the Fenians sleep, neath the shroud of the foggy dew. But the bravest fell, and the requiem bell rang mournfully and clear, for those who died that Easter tide, the springing of the year. And the world did gaze in deep amaze at those fearless men but few, who bore the fight that freedom's light might shine through the foggy dew.
Thank you very much, David. Accordia, I'd now like to call on Jerry Rannix to lay a wreath on behalf of Meath Sinn Féin. I'd now call on Céline Collins to lay a wreath on behalf of the Republican movement. Margaret Céline. Accordia, I'd ask you all now to stand to attention while Davy Harrison plays Aron Naveen.
Shena fina fall, a tofe yalegera, weaned or slew, our tenderoni crew, Bevoid vessel, Shantiro sheensher foster, me offer betiron of Bentrol, Anok James of Arnaville, Laganerville, on Voshno sin, Lagon Ishquirk, Belop Navile, Charlotte Connie, Aronavi.
Accordia, our commemoration has drawn to a close, but before you go, I'd just like to thank the organisers, the Colour Party, Davy, the Wreath Layers and everyone else that was involved. And I'd ask you all to gather behind the grave for a picture if you could before you leave. Gurmila Mahagov, Slán before.
Well,